The world watches with bated breath. A new era of global tension is upon us. At the heart of this maelstrom lies the escalating rivalry between the United States and China. The recent imposition of hefty tariffs by the US on Chinese goods, including a staggering 125% levy, has ignited a firestorm of economic and geopolitical uncertainty. Adding fuel to this fire is the ever-volatile situation surrounding Taiwan, a small island nation caught in the crosshairs of this great power struggle. The stakes couldn't be higher. The world's two largest economies are locked in a high-stakes game of chicken, each vying for dominance on the global stage. The ramifications of this conflict will reverberate across continents, reshaping global trade, technology, and geopolitics for generations to come. As we stand on the precipice of a new world order, one thing is certain: the road ahead is fraught with peril and uncertainty. The US, seeking to maintain its position as the world's preeminent power, views China's rise with growing apprehension. China, meanwhile, is determined to reclaim its historical mantle as a global superpower. The battle lines are drawn and the first salvos have been fired. The question now is, how will this conflict play out, and what will be the consequences for the rest of the world? In this rapidly evolving landscape, one thing is clear: the old rules no longer apply. The world is entering uncharted territory, and the consequences are impossible to fully predict. But one thing is certain: the stakes are incredibly high, and the outcome of this struggle will shape the destiny of the 21st century. The Trump administration's decision to impose a 125% tariff on a wide range of Chinese goods sent shockwaves through the global economy. This unprecedented move, aimed at curbing China's growing economic might, marked a significant escalation in the ongoing trade war between the world's two largest economies. The rationale behind this aggressive action is rooted in the belief that China has engaged in unfair trade practices for far too long. The US accuses China of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and currency manipulation, all of which have given Chinese companies an unfair advantage in the global marketplace. The 125% tariff, however, is not merely a bargaining chip in a trade negotiation. It represents a fundamental shift in US strategy towards China, one that seeks to decouple the two economies and contain China's rise as a global power. The message from Washington is clear: China's days of benefiting from an open global trading system while flouting the rules are over. This aggressive stance has been met with a mixture of apprehension and defiance. Supporters of the tariffs argue that they are necessary to protect American jobs and industries from unfair Chinese competition. Critics, however, warn that the tariffs will harm American consumers, businesses, and the global economy as a whole. Only time will tell what the ultimate impact of this high-stakes gamble will be. China, for its part, has shown no signs of backing down in the face of American pressure. Beijing has responded to the US tariffs with retaliatory tariffs of its own, targeting key American exports like soybeans, automobiles, and pork. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs has already begun to impact both economies, disrupting supply chains and raising prices for consumers. However, China's response goes beyond simply matching US tariffs blow for blow. Recognizing that it cannot win a protracted trade war with the US on its own, China is actively seeking to strengthen its economic ties with other countries and regions. This includes deepening its engagement with Europe, Southeast Asia, and Africa, as well as bolstering its Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project aimed at connecting China to the rest of Eurasia. Furthermore, China is accelerating its efforts to become more self-reliant, particularly in key technological sectors like semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and 5G wireless technology. By reducing its dependence on foreign technology, China aims to insulate itself from future US sanctions and pressure. This strategic shift towards self-reliance is likely to have far-reaching consequences for the global technology landscape. China's response to the US tariffs demonstrates a shrewd understanding of both the economic and geopolitical realities of the 21st century. By diversifying its economic partnerships, strengthening its domestic market, and investing heavily in cutting-edge technologies, China is positioning itself to weather the current storm and emerge as a more resilient and influential global power. The world is witnessing a fundamental shift in the global balance of power, and the outcome of this struggle will have profound implications for the future. If all other options are exhausted, China may also consider taking aggressive action towards Taiwan, further escalating global tensions. Section 4. The Silicon Shield, Taiwan's pivotal role in the global tech war. In this high-stakes game of economic chess, Taiwan has emerged as a critical pawn. The island nation, which China claims as its own, is home to Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, the world's largest and most advanced contract chipmaker. TSMC's cutting-edge semiconductors power everything from smartphones and laptops to cars and fighter jets, making it an indispensable player in the global technology ecosystem. The United States, recognizing Taiwan's strategic importance, has pledged to defend the island from any potential Chinese aggression. Washington has stepped up arms sales to Taiwan and increased its naval presence in the Taiwan Strait, sending a clear message of deterrence to Beijing. The U.S. sees Taiwan as a vital link in the first island chain, a string of islands stretching from Japan to the Philippines that helps contain China's naval ambitions. China, meanwhile, views Taiwan as an integral part of its territory and has vowed to reunify the island with the mainland, by force if necessary. Beijing has intensified its military activities around Taiwan, conducting frequent air and naval exercises, and sending warplanes across the median line that divides the Taiwan Strait. These actions are intended to intimidate Taiwan and signal China's resolve to prevent the island from formally declaring independence. The Taiwan issue is a powder keg in the US-China relationship, and any miscalculation or escalation could have catastrophic consequences. The world is holding its breath, hoping that cooler heads will prevail and that this potential flashpoint can be diffused. However, the reality is that Taiwan's fate hangs precariously in the balance, caught between the competing ambitions of two superpowers. Section 5. Shifting sands, global supply chains in the crossfire. The ongoing trade war between the US and China, coupled with the escalating tensions surrounding Taiwan, has sent shockwaves through global supply chains. For decades, businesses around the world have relied on China's vast manufacturing capacity and low labor costs to produce a wide range of goods, from electronics and clothing to toys and furniture. However, the current geopolitical climate has cast a long shadow over this model, forcing companies to rethink their sourcing strategies. The tariffs imposed by both the US and China have disrupted the flow of goods and services, leading to higher costs for businesses and consumers alike. The COVID-19 pandemic further exposed the vulnerabilities of globally interconnected supply chains, as lockdowns and disruptions in transportation networks led to widespread shortages and delays. As a result, many companies are now looking to diversify their supply chains, reducing their reliance on China, and seeking alternative manufacturing hubs in countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico. This shift away from China is being driven by a combination of factors, including rising labor costs in China, concerns about intellectual property theft, and the desire to mitigate political and economic risks. This decoupling of the US and Chinese economies, while still in its early stages, is likely to have profound implications for the global economic order. It remains to be seen whether this trend will lead to a more fragmented and regionalized global economy, or whether new, more resilient and diversified supply chains will emerge. One thing is certain: the era of unfettered globalization and China's dominance as the world's factory is coming to an end.